as women, we are not mature. She's like, in my family, we've always known this. Women are not fully mature until we reach menopause. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. And the council that was the highest council in tribal life was the council of grandmothers. Why? Because grandmothers have raised the babies, have been the caretakers, have had their hands in the earth this whole time.
Welcome to the roller coaster. I'm your host, Lucy Q. And wherever you are on your midlife roller coaster journey, I am so glad that you have found us, because this can be an incredibly confusing, challenging, and chaotic time of our lives. And a lot of the time, we suffer in silence. We don't share what's going on, and that can only make the situation worse for us, especially if you are going through a spiritual awakening, which many women in this season of life are going through. And it's something that I'm going to be talking about more on this show, because all of these gifts that are being revealed to us, if you don't know how to, first of all, to understand what's going on, and then communicate and share what you're learning about yourself, the midlife roller coaster can be even wilder. And for me, my awakening, I'd like to say it's still unfolding, because I'm learning to become comfortable with those things that mainstream may consider to be what they call woo-woo. And I say comfortable because I've had a lot of fear about sharing this side of me. Ultimately, I didn't want to be judged, especially while I'm trying to understand what it is that's changing within myself. So if you think that you're going through some sort of spiritual awakening of yourself, for yourself, or you're not even sure what's going on, but you have a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty, you are going to love today's guest. Mellissa Seaman is a business strategist, intuitive channel, world-renowned retreat leader, sought-after media speaker, and host of the Channel Your Genius podcast. A Stanford-educated former business lawyer, Mellissa is also an adopted earth wisdom ceremonialist of the indigenous Chlistian tradition, a potent energy healer, and a highly regarded professional intuitive. Mellissa bridges the worlds of business strategy and intuitive development to guide professional women in midlife to clarify their deepest purpose, do business with heart and ease, and step into a new level of leadership as what she calls wise women queens. You may know Mellissa as the lawyer shaman who empowers formerly corporate women in midlife to become professional wise women as respected spiritual guides, transformative teachers, and oracles of the industry without losing respect, reputation, or revenue. But what you might not know about Mellissa is that she lives with a herd of goats that sometimes end up climbing on the roof of her house. Now buckle up. This is going to be a fun ride. This is the Roller Coaster Podcast. We are here to help you be empowered and renew your sense of purpose as a midlife mom. This is your time to redefine and reclaim your power as a woman. Just because our kids are getting older doesn't mean that our lives still don't have crazy twists, turns, ups and downs. And that's not to mention what our hormones are doing. We're navigating helping our kids plan their next chapters while quietly wondering, what the heck does my next chapter look like? My name is Lucy Q, wife, mom, podcaster, and journaling mentor. This is a crazy time in your life, but you are not alone. So I'm inviting you to throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride. Roller coaster. Life is like.
Welcome to the roller coaster, Mellissa.
Whoop, whoop. I want to scream. I want to go, go down that. Ooh, like, make all the roller coaster sounds.
And that's it. It's like, I think coming to the end of the year, I think is a good time to sort of look back and to see when those peaks and valleys were, those twists and
Totally.
turns, and those
Uh-huh.
moments where we were absolutely terrified or having a blast.
Totally. Totally. The ups and the downs of the midlife journey.
It's always,
Whee!
always going.
Oh yeah, for reals.
Now, what I find really, I'm going to say curious and interesting, and I'm also going to say I'm slightly jealous at your bravery
Mm.
because you took what a lot of people would consider to be this massive step. It was a bold step. And that was when you went from being a lawyer
Mm-hmm.
to embracing those intuitive gifts. I'm wondering if you can share a bit about your journey and how that all came about.
Yeah, I mean, uh, part of it was bravery, but a lot of it was the roller coaster. So, and at that point, it wasn't so much the midlife roller coaster, but it was the spiritual awakening roller coaster because I was not intending to become an intuitive. I was not intending to get psychic. I was perfectly happy as a business lawyer, raising my babies in suburbia in San Diego, married to my lovely engineer slash 80s singer husband, you know, with my couple of cars and my big giant house and living close to my parents and my church. And like life was grand. It was solid, content, lovely. And then I gave birth to my daughter, and my daughter's birth was like this, I don't know, 4 hour long pleasurable belly dance experience. Like it was not what the first birth of my son had been, which was more like natural birthing, you know, a lot of work for a couple days. And this was just like whoosh. And when she came through me, man, I don't know, after that birth, I could see energy on people. I knew what happened to them in the past. I knew sometimes what would happen to them in the future. I could see their spirit guides. I could see beyond the boundaries of what we can normally see. And it just was like bam in my face. And people often say what you just said. They're like, wow, that was so brave. And I'm like, actually, I just got thrown in a washing machine. And it's like, are you gonna sink or swim? You know, and honestly, it was such a big change so fast. And yet it was a part of me that clearly had been in there. You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel foreign. It just felt like, oh crap, we're doing this. Like this is this,
Was
this
it
now.
scary though?
Yeah, it was scary. Well, it wasn't scary inside myself. It wasn't scary. Even seeing dead people wasn't scary. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like all that stuff was like, oh, you. Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense. To me, inside myself, it all made sense. But what was terrifying was that my lovely, smart, educated, mystical Catholic parents thought maybe I needed an exorcism, you know, because suddenly I'm hearing voices and I'm seeing all this stuff. And they're like, crap, this sounds, doesn't this mean you're nuts? And my lovely husband was like, oh God, you're a roller coaster now. Like there's so much here that I didn't choose to get involved in. And, you know, and it really got in the way too of my previous faith life was all Catholic, and there were rules and there were things that are true and not true. And suddenly there's no boundaries of that anymore. There's just what aligns with love is God. And then the rest of this is shenanigans. And I really was thrown into something where I had to learn to swim in a whole new ocean really fast. And I was brave in that because I was like, okay, I'm going to make this work for myself. You know, I applied my lawyer's brain to my spirit guides. I'm like, all right, I see all you spirits now. Here's the deal. Y'alls who deal with the dead people, you're over there, and I'll let you know if I need you. And y'alls who deal with my body, I'm going to be needing your help. So you guys are right up front. But you guys over there, like, I don't even know what you are. Go home. I don't really want to see you. So I just started organizing spirit stuff, which now looking back, I'm like, now that's what I should be applauded for, because that continues to be what I teach my students and stuff, is like how to make sense of spiritual chaos, how to leverage the spirit stuff, in real life for real results. Um, but honestly, love, it took me like, 5 or 7 years of living super woo. I went from being Catholic lawyer to being like channel of the divine feminine mysteries and like, distance healer, and like really living naked in the forest with a bunch of other hippies, which I loved, by the way. Highly recommend that as an experience. But like at a certain point, my wisdom demanded that I get back to the real world and find a way to bridge all this super woo-woo stuff into real life, into real business. Because looking around as my kids got older, I was like, wow, this world needs what's in the middle of super woo and super analytical business stuff. We need what's in the middle. We need the best of both worlds to solve the problems the world is facing now, to lead people into a better way of living. Like, we need what's in the middle. And so, since then, I've been playing in the middle between business strategy for intuitive women and intuitive gifts development, for wise women who are awakening in midlife, who are like, wow, I've been taking care of everybody for a long time and I've been so responsible. And now it's time for me to step into my queen shoes and like really stand in leadership, but not on a hamster wheel leadership, not like go, 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 push, 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 but rather like it's actually time for me to take my throne of wisdom and give people some excuse to listen to me, because what's coming through me is important and what's coming through me can help people. And yeah, time to ascend the throne of the wise woman queen.
And I can relate to, dealing with your spiritual side within your own self. That
Mm-hmm.
feels completely normal. But it's the minute that you have to try and articulate it to
Yeah,
your partner
right.
and try and explain what's going on and where this is coming from. I think for me, that's where the fear comes from, because you're afraid of being judged, you're afraid of being rejected. But
Totally.
that inside, I describe it as there's a song inside me and the music is there. I just have to figure out how to write the lyrics.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
beautiful.
that's sort of, and I've spoken to so many women that have hit this midlife point.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, our system, however you want to call it, society, the medical system, all of that, they speak about midlife as being menopause and your
Mm-hmm.
physical bodily changes.
Yeah, you're defective now. You're over the hill.
There is that, but there's
Mm-hmm.
nobody's really talking about what actually goes on for women, and that is the stepping into that wise woman, being that the queen, and owning who you are. And I
Right.
think that's the for me that's the biggest roller coaster ride that I went on, because I had no clue that any of this had anything to do with midlife.
Right.
And it threw me like, forget roller coaster, this was like a terror ride. I
Oh.
had no idea, I lost all concept of everything. And
Mm.
for me, that was just part of my journey. But now that I'm connecting with more women that are finding the courage to talk about the spiritual side of things, I can see, that area growing. There's
Yeah.
more of us assembling and looking to, in some way, create that difference that is so desperately craved in this world.
Right. A big thing that inspires me is my Tilshtayan Apache indigenous adopted mama, Maria Yesbrew. When I started going through the change, approaching menopause, she was like, "Oh, I'm so excited for you." I'm like, "Whoa, that's a new thing to say." And she's like, "Mellissa, this is the wisdom initiation. This is, as women, we are not mature." She's like, "In my family, we've always known this. Women are not fully mature until we reach menopause." I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. And the council that was the highest council in tribal life was the council of grandmothers. Why? Because grandmothers have raised the babies, have been the caretakers, have had their hands in the earth this whole time. And by the time they move through menopause, their power is mature, their leadership is strong, and it's grounded in compassionate connection with nature, with spirit, and with the people. She said, so the highest council of leadership was always the grandmother's council. I'm like, oh, like, oh, and it hit me. Oh, this thing about how we don't talk about what menopause really is, it's actually part of the thousands of years old thing we've been playing with called patriarchy, which has just subjugated not just that aspect of our feminine. And when I say our, I mean the feminine that lives within men, children, all of us. It's been part of the subjugation, the desecration, and the repression of feminine power that we've taken this most potent wisdom initiation that creates the leaders of tomorrow and turned it into a medical diagnosis that's to be like mostly ignored and then occasionally dealt with, but only as a problem. Like it like all landed with me when she told me this story. I was like, oh crap. You know, wise women, mature, wise women, post-menopause, menopausal women are literally designed for leadership. And they, little old ladies, are the last people anybody asks for anything. We've really messed this thing up and we need to fix it. And here we are now living in an age where, gosh, you know, this time between menopause, which is maybe around 50, to the time where you start really feeling like a decrepit little old lady. Dude, there's 30, 40 years in there now. Like there's 30 or 40 years where we can sit on the grandmother's council and perhaps turn this ship around. So as you can tell, I'm all fired up about it.
And I love that energy because I'm the same way. It's I keep talking about it, and obviously on the podcast, it's you know, my main sort of topic that I'm talking about, because I think as women we're still being pushed aside in society. We're being disregarded and not valued for everything that we've learned over the course of our lives. And I've noticed there is a distinct difference. If you're a man in your 50s, you are viewed completely differently than if you're a woman in your 50s. In the business world, that is. And we see that happening in society where ageism is augmenting the men and filtering out the women. And I think that's why, you know, it's more important than ever that we come together and we start understanding what those wise gifts are, and how we can bring them to the world.
Totally. And I think you're absolutely right when you say the tricky part is finding the words to describe, because in a world where we've subjugated, hidden, desecrated, put down, teased, made fun of, judged this form of mature feminine leadership, of course we need new words. We need new words, we need new phrases, we need new taglines, we need new, like, and as women who are stepping into this next best chapter of our leadership lives, yeah, we got to be a little strategic. Yeah, you got to clarify, what is this expertise you're sharing? I'm not a, you know, ungrounded woo person. I'm more like a grounded bridge person, and I help people make a lot of money. So how do you make a lot of money? How do you know, be seen as this tremendous value that we've forgotten that we are? It's in the words. It's in the words. And I mean, that's part of why I came up with like these 5, or actually there's 7 leadership types. Like there's 7 wise woman leadership types that, you know, because I want to shine the light on things that we haven't even been seeing in ourselves, and empower mid-age women with all this wisdom to go, oh crap, I am a leader, and I'm a leader of a new type. Like there's a type of leadership that has been active in the world that I've been embodying that I haven't even been able to put words to. And now let's start talking about it, because that I think is the answer. Let's talk about it. Let's acknowledge each other. Let's acknowledge ourselves. And then let's take a step further and strategize it into business so that we get paid really well for this wisdom that we embody.
And I'm going to say that's the second challenge. Once you can get past, accepting who you are and what gifts you can bring to the world, the next step to overcome is to actually realize that it's not something that you should be giving away for free. Right. It's something of great value.
Yeah.
And it's creating that business of it, because a lot of the time, when you want to do good in the world, you're in this odd position because you're like, well, I want to do all of this good, but it's kind of icky, the money side of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I work with a lot of women who they're coming off of a very successful professional career. They don't actually need the money. So they go out there into the world and they're like, well, I'll just start doing my Reiki or my yoga or whatever. But what they realize really swiftly is if you're packaging yourself as a freebie, people don't get the message. People don't receive wisdom unless they've invested in it. They don't value it unless they've paid for it. And I'm sorry, it's a drag. I know. And we're trying to change the economy and la, la, la. But in the meantime, make great money with your wisdom and then donate it to all the causes need it. If you don't need the money, great. But if you try and go budget and just trade sessions with nice people and give it all away, then you will not be a leader. You will not be able to step up into your throne. You'll be stuck at the front door of the castle giving away free presents to people wandering by. And that is not where we need you.
And I think it comes down to, once you recognize your own self-worth and the value that you're bringing, once you value yourself, others are going to have that same value for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Or more. Oftentimes they're just looking for the reason to actually pay you and reward you and be grateful to you. Because when they do that, they open themselves for the energy that comes through you for them. They open themselves to the energy that comes through you. And there can be big energy that comes through you, but they can't receive it unless they're invested. And that's just freaking
That's just the way it is. People pay attention to what they pay for.
That's correct.
It's an unfortunate part of our society. It's like you said, it's where we are now. We're trying to fix it. And until we fix it and change it, this is what we have to deal with.
Yeah.
This is where we're at.
And I like it when the wise women are rich. I think it's fantastic. I'd rather have money in the hands of wise women queens, post-menopausal, post-professional, grounded, brilliant, inspired, guided women. That's why I want to have the money, quite frankly. So I'm also celebrating that because, there's, the money's in the hands of a lot of, twisted, dorky men right now who are messing up the earth and doing a bunch of stuff that us grandmas are like, oh, really, Sonny? Is that your best? You're the one everyone's calling a genius while you rape and pillage? Oh, geez. Let's redefine some of that, shall we?
It's so true. So true. Did you want to share a little bit more about the wise women queens? You mentioned that there's 7 different types.
I just, I've been playing with these, and there's these 7 types of wise women leadership, wise women queens. And I thought I'd speak them aloud because when I do, women feel empowered, and I dig that. So the first one is the fairy godmother queen. The fairy godmother queen is like the guardian of lighthearted magic in the family. She's playing and creating playful, fun experiences for the family and in her community. And she's literally channeling the power of joy, the feminine power of joy. And let's make that important again. Let's acknowledge the women in our lives who are those fairy godmother queens and thank them. Okay. The second one is the fire woman. This is the sexy ass elder ma who gives a transmission of powerful sensuality. She's that cougar. In indigenous cultures, there's generally a fire woman role. There's an elder woman in the family, in the tribe, who's the one who initiates the boys when it comes time to teach them how to treat a woman. It's an elder woman who does that, and her role is fire woman. Now, I'm not saying that all the cougars should go out and initiate all the boys in our current culture, although that is what's happening. If you talk to the men, you know, guess who their first was somebody hopefully who could teach them a thing or two, right? But the other magic of the fire woman is the sexual manifestation arts, which is another thing that's been completely subjugated. And yet, when I talk to successful women, more often than not, they have some practice where they utilize their sexual creative energies, their turn on, and their sex itself to juice up their intentions and manifest real things in the world. And that's something, you know, I teach those mysteries on occasion, only in small group, like very well vetted, because they're very powerful. Okay. And then the third one is the wisdom tree queen. So this is the wisdom tree type, is holding the stories, is the keeper of ancestral wisdom. I say wisdom tree because she's holding the roots, like a guardian of time. She's a connection to the ancestors and the family. She's holding the family stories. She might be really into the traditions, the family traditions that carry that energy forward. And that is a form of leadership, feminine leadership. Okay. And then number 4 is the one I call monastic Ma. She's the queen who is like the meditator and the holder of the silent inward practice. She's the quiet one that when she finally speaks, everybody listens because she's sourcing wisdom from the silent, clear bead in the center of the universe. You know, she's that wise that wise one that speaks from the silence. And everyone who's hanging out with her just quiets down and calms down. Okay. And then number 5, I call the Grand Oracle, because she's a speaker of profound truths. And you and I have some of this one in us, right?
I was just going to say, I was going to try to figure out which one I fit into.
Definitely, you might have some of this.
I'm definitely not the quiet one.
The Grand Oracle is the wisdom bearer who speaks mystic wisdom so that people can hear it.
And that's exactly what people come to me for.
Yeah.
They know I'm the one that's going to I'm going to give them love, but it's going to come with a swift kick in the ass.
A nice, she's holding a sword of truth, and it comes with, right, that clarity. That's the Grand Oracle. And then number 6 is the medicine master. So this queen is the healer. She knows the medicines. So she knows the herbs. She knows nature's mysteries, the elemental medicines. She knows the alchemy. And she knows our path to balance and healing. And this might be the granny who's got like the, you know, cupboard full of herbs and teas. It might be the one who takes you out hiking and shows you the mystical places of power. You know, this is like the healer, the nature connected healer, because that is feminine healing. We've gotten pretty far away from our nature connected healers. And I just got to give a shout out right now for my Ayurvedic practitioner, because she did more for my menopause stuff than just about you know, the doctory stuff. Because Ayurveda is one of those medicine master traditions. It's been around for 5,000 years. It's a lot longer than Western medicine. And so when I say medicine master, I'm not just talking about analytical Western pharmaceutical stuff. Although there's a place for that. I'm not against it, guys.
It's balanced.
But what's been subjugated is this other side, elemental medicine, elemental balance, working with the body, not against it. Okay. And then finally, number 7, I call our luminary elder queen, because she is like, she's doing business and she's on stages and she's actively leading groups, teaching, expanding. She's public. You know, I've got a piece of this in me too. And she's a leader among leaders, and she has minions. She's not doing it all herself. She's not single-handedly running her empire. Hell no. What queen do you know does all the footwork. No queen does all the footwork. So then when I coach women in business, this is a lot of the strategy is like, yeah, I get it. You're having a whole new phase of business, but guess what? You're not going to be on the hamster wheel. It does not work for wise women.
No, and that's the thing that, in all of these changes that are going on with women, I think, burnout is becoming a big part of that.
Yes. Oh, and then burnout becomes a very real take you to your knees, put you to bed for 3 months condition. No longer is it just like, wow, I'm feeling really tired, but that's okay. I can keep going. No, no. When you reach wise woman stage, you burn that stuff out, you're going down and you're going to stay down. And some of us, that's what it's taken to wake us up, to
Yeah.
recognize, oh, shoot, I can't do business as usual anymore. I really need to take the throne now. I really do need to step into my throne of wisdom now because I cannot fritter anymore. I cannot hustle. I cannot chase. No, I need to identify what type of leader I am, find that throne, sit in that throne, and then find the words, the system, the strategies to make myself magnetic to the right people because I won't be chasing people anymore. And that actually, in a nutshell, is what my entire Channel Your Genius business is about. It's helping wise women do that, helping them create like lead gen quiz and podcasts and like things that will be magnetic for people to come pay them so that they're not chasing and fighting and scratching and competing and all that stuff that's really better left for women that are still cycling through the craziness of menstruation.
And you are, I'm gonna give you this title if somebody hasn't given it to you before. You're the queen of quizzes. Like,
Oh,
the way you
I
put
love
quizzes together is phenomenal.
I really
And I
think.
know when I did your Genius Revealer
Mm.
quiz and I
Uh-huh.
read my outcome, it was like you had crawled into my head and you understood me. And it was for that first time that I could sit there and go, I feel seen.
Oh, thank God. That's wonderful.
It is the most
Yeah.
it's the most empowering thing to go through because in
Mhm.
your own head, you're going on thinking you're, batshit crazy most of the time. But then to complete something so simple, and
Yeah.
I've done quizzes on different things before and that, and they're
Yeah.
like, nah, okay, that's kind of cute. That's fun. But your quiz really gave me that, yeah, this is who you are. And I've done some quizzes of some other wise women that you've worked with.
Mm.
And I've found the same thing. I'm like, hey, yeah, you're sort of speaking to elements in myself that I knew were there. I just didn't know how to, again, put words to the feelings and the thoughts that I had.
Yes. 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 Quizzes do that better than anything. And especially quizzes that work on these sorts of archetypes. So I'm building a quiz right now for these 7 archetypes for the wise woman queen. Because why wouldn't I? Right? Like this is helpful stuff. But the soul gift quiz, which is I think the one that you're referring to, is like my first step quiz that people take when they are curious about my world. And what I love about it, and the reason why I now help other wise women create quizzes, is that it is literally magnetic in that after you take the soul gift quiz, you get to learn which soul gift is yours, which is your essential deepest gift. And it usually like makes people cry a little bit. Like it's very moving to be seen so deeply by a little quiz. And that's why I help other wise women create quizzes for their business or their work, is because, yeah, you can draw your right people in and give them such a gorgeous, loving, deep acknowledgement experience. And they end up learning about you and they naturally are drawn to work with you if they're supposed to. There's no push, there's no manipulation. It's just like comes from generosity, which again, that's what we wise women do. That's what we do naturally. We share our wisdom. And if you dig it, great. And if you don't, that's just dandy because we no longer give so many F's about everybody liking me anymore. And yet when you take the quiz, it's not about like, yeah, it's not about me. It's about you. When you take my quiz, it's about you. And that's how it should be. That's how it should be.
So I'm going to make sure that there's a link in the show notes because I highly recommend anyone listening just take the 5 or 10 minutes that it takes to finish this quiz. and just be curious and see what comes out. Because as I shared before,
Mm.
it really, for the first time, helped me feel heard and seen, and all of those things that we're sort of searching for when we're in this chaotic time in our lives.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's I'm so grateful to the quiz for connecting you and me. Like
Yeah.
I meet some of the coolest people in my life from that quiz and then what comes after. Because if you give me your email, then you get like a sequence of educational emails. It's like, okay, you learn you're this type. Here's what that means about your leadership style. Here's what that means about your relationships. It's like we get to know each other that way in an accelerated, easy fashion. And it just really connects me with really rad people like you.
And I love all the follow-up material that I've been getting, and the separate podcast episodes and all of that you're sending
Oh
out.
yeah.
It just
Yeah.
really, it helps reinforce your learning on and embracing who you are. So I love that.
Oh, thanks, love.
Now, Mellissa, as we wrap up, I'm just wondering if you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners today.
Yeah, I think my final words of wisdom are that this passage that I call the Menno passage that we're all navigating together, it's a passage into power. It doesn't seem like it when you're in the tumult and the waves are crashing over your boat and you can't sleep and you're sweaty and like you don't want to have sex with your husband anymore. Like there's a bunch of things that like you will move through, but underneath it, no, you are moving into your power. You are moving into your greatest powerful time of your life. No, it might not be the prettiest or the easiest or the simplest, but it is your most powerful. It's the time of your natural leadership. And keep that in mind as you navigate the journey. It's not just a problem to solve, it's a passage into power.
I love that. Not a problem to solve. So if you're listening and you want to take Melissa's soul quiz, make sure you check out the show notes. I am going to have the link in there. And Melissa, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creator.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride, 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 ride. Life is like a roller coaster, baby.